The snow was still falling on the morning of January 18th, 1943. But something else was moving through it, slow and stubborn, against all reason. On a frozen road outside the village of Mungar, south of Leningrad, Soviet soldiers noticed a lone figure far ahead. At first, they thought it was a wounded soldier who had lost his unit. Then someone raised binoculars and froze. It was not a soldier. It was a woman. And she was walking straight toward the front line. This was no safe road. German artillery had zeroed in on it weeks earlier. Shell craters were buried under fresh snow. The temperature was -20 degrees Celsius. Any untrained civilian should have collapsed within minutes. If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below. Yet the woman kept moving step by step, bent forward under the wind, clutching a small cloth bundle to her chest. Every man watching felt the same question rising in silence. Who was she, and why was she here? As the figure drew closer, riflemen from the 67th Army raised their weapons. Orders were clear. No civilians were supposed to be anywhere near this sector. The Leningrad Front was preparing for a major assault to break the siege. Spies were real. Disguises were common. One wrong decision could cost lives. A junior lieutenant shouted for her to stop, his voice sharp in the cold air. She did not stop. She raised one gloved hand, not in fear, but in effort, as if even lifting it took strength she barely had. When she was finally close enough to see clearly, the soldiers lowered their rifles without being told. She was older than most mothers of soldiers, perhaps in her late 40s, her face deeply lined, her cheeks raw and cracked from windburn. Her coat was civilian, patched in 3 places, too thin for this weather. Her boots were wrapped in cloth instead of proper felt. She was shaking, but not from fear, from exhaustion. Her name was Anna Ivanovna Morozova. She did not ask for food. She did not ask for shelter. Her first words were simple and quiet. She said she was looking for her son. She said his name clearly, as if repeating it kept him alive. Private Sergei Petrovich Morozov, rifleman, 125th Rifle Division, drafted in August 1941. Last letter received in November 1942. Location mentioned near Mugar. The men exchanged glances. The 125th Rifle Division had been here months ago. Most of it had been shattered during earlier attacks. Casualty lists were incomplete. Many soldiers were listed as missing. Anna Morozova did not know this, or perhaps she did, but refused to accept it. The lieutenant tried to explain that this was not a place for civilians, that her son might have been moved, wounded, or worse. She listened without interrupting. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a folded paper, worn soft by handling. It was her son's last letter. The edges were frayed. The ink was fading. She had memorized every line. She only wanted to go where he had been last seen. The battalion commander, Major Viktor Semyonovich Karpov, was called forward. He was a veteran officer, 36 years old, already grey at the temples from 2 winters at the front. He had seen entire companies vanish overnight. He had also seen things that stayed with him longer than artillery noise or screams. When he looked at Anna Morozova, he did not see a threat. He saw something else. He saw the war walking toward him on tired legs. Major Karpov ordered hot tea brought immediately. Anna drank it slowly, her hands trembling so badly the cup rattled against her teeth. Only then did the men realize how close she was to collapse. She had walked more than 60 kilometers through occupied and contested territory to reach this point. On foot, alone, through forests patrolled by German units, across frozen rivers under shell fire. When asked how she got past German positions, she answered simply. She walked at night. She hid during the day. She followed the sound of guns because she believed they would lead her to her son. At one point, she had crawled through a field while flares lit the sky above her. At another, she waited 3 hours in a ditch while a German patrol passed within meters. She spoke of these moments without drama, without pride, as if this was just what any mother would do. Major Karpov faced a decision he had never trained for. Regulations were clear. Civilians could not be near combat units, but regulations did not account for Anna Morozova. Sending her back meant certain death. Keeping her here was impossible, yet turning her away felt like a betrayal of something deeper than orders. Karpov did something rare in wartime. He paused. Then he ordered that she be escorted to the divisional headquarters, several kilometers behind the line, where records might exist. He assigned 2 soldiers to accompany her. Before she left, she turned back and asked one more question. She asked if anyone had seen her son. No one answered, because no one could. As Anna was led away, word spread quickly through the battalion. Men stopped cleaning weapons. Conversations died mid-sentence. Hardened soldiers who had survived encirclement and hunger felt a tightness in their chests they could not name. They had mothers too, somewhere far away, somewhere safe, they hoped. At divisional headquarters, a young staff officer searched through battered folders and handwritten logs. The process took hours. Anna sat silently on a bench, her bundle in her lap. Inside it were socks she had knitted, a small loaf of bread saved from her ration card, and a photograph of Sergei as a boy, standing stiffly in a school uniform. She had planned to give him everything when she found him. She had not planned for any other outcome. The records were incomplete. Sergei Morozov was listed as missing in action after fighting near Sinyavino Heights in December 1942. No grave recorded, no hospital transfer, no confirmation of death. To the army, he was a name in limbo. To Anna, he was still alive. Major Karpov received the report that evening. He knew what missing meant in this sector. The Sinyavino fighting had been brutal. Units had been overrun, surrounded, destroyed. But missing was not dead, not yet. And that single thin hope was enough for Anna Morozova to keep going. Instead of ordering her evacuation to the rear, Karpov made another decision, one that would later be whispered about across the division. He allowed her to stay overnight under guard. He promised that if any soldier from the 125th Division passed through, she would be allowed to ask them about her son. It was not much, but it was something. That night, artillery thundered without pause. The ground shook. Snow fell from the ceiling beams of the dugout. Anna did not sleep. She sat upright, listening. Every explosion sounded to her like it might be the one that killed her son, or the one he had already survived. Just before dawn, a group of wounded soldiers was brought in from the forward trenches. One of them, a corporal with a bandaged shoulder, noticed Anna sitting there. He stared at her for a long moment, then slowly stood up, despite the medic's protests. He asked her name. When she said Morozova, his face changed. He remembered Sergei. He remembered him clearly. A quiet rifleman. Good shot. Never complained. Shared his last tobacco during a snowstorm. The corporal said Sergei had been wounded during a counterattack near Hill 43. He had helped carry him toward the rear. Then artillery hit again. Smoke. Confusion. Sergei had been alive when last seen. Bleeding, but conscious. After that, he did not know. Anna did not cry. She closed her eyes and nodded once. Alive when last seen. That was enough to keep her standing. What happened next would turn her journey from impossible to legendary. The information spread through the battalion faster than orders ever did. A mother had come to the front, and she had not come to beg or protest or cry. She had come to search soldiers who passed through. Headquarters began to stop on their own. Some only stared at her in silence. Others asked her son's name again, testing their memory, hoping they might have seen him. Each answer carried weight. Each pause carried fear. By the afternoon of January 19, 1943, Major Karpov understood something important. Anna Morozova was no longer just a civilian. She had become a living reminder of why these men were here. In a war that reduced people to numbers and reports, she brought back faces, names, kitchens, letters, and waiting homes. The battalion felt different with her nearby, quieter, sharper, more human. Karpov made another decision that would later be questioned and quietly defended. He allowed Anna to move with a supply convoy heading toward a field hospital near the Neva River. It was risky. The road was shelled regularly. But wounded men were coming back from that direction, and if Sergei had survived, this was where he might be. 2 armed escorts were assigned, they were told, clearly that her safety was now their responsibility. The convoy moved at dusk, engines low, headlights off, snow-swallowed sound, German artillery fired intermittently, walking shells across the road. At one point, the truck stopped while engineers checked for mines. Anna stood in the snow without complaint, leaning on the side of a vehicle, her breath forming small clouds in the dark. She looked smaller now, thinner, but she did not look weak. They reached the field hospital just before midnight. It was a cluster of tents and dugouts carved into frozen ground. Inside, the smell of antiseptic mixed with smoke and blood. Stretchers lined the walls. Men groaned softly, others stared at nothing. Doctors moved fast, hands red, faces hollow with fatigue. Anna walked slowly through the rows, escorted by a nurse who did not ask her to leave. She looked at every face. She checked every tag. She whispered her son's name once, then stopped, afraid that saying it too much might somehow break it. Hours passed, no Sergei. One surgeon remembered a Morozov, but not Sergei Petrovich. Another medic recalled a rifleman sent further east with a head wound. No name recorded. Paperwork had burned during an air raid. Too many wounded. Too few hands. Near dawn, Anna finally sat down. For the first time since she had reached the front, her strength faltered. Her shoulders sagged. Her hands rested uselessly in her lap. One of the escorts offered her bread. She ate a few bites, more out of habit than hunger. At that moment, a truck arrived carrying wounded evacuated from a shattered position near the Sinyavino marshes. Among them was a young lieutenant with frostbitten fingers and a bandage around his head. As he was helped down, he glanced at Anna and froze. He stared openly, disbelief written across his face. He asked her name. When she said Morozova, he took a step forward and nearly fell. The nurse caught him. He insisted on speaking anyway. He said he had commanded a platoon from the 125th Rifle Division. He said Private Sergei Morozov had served under him. He said Sergei had saved his life. The words came out unevenly, broken by pain and memory. During a German counterattack in late December, Sergei had dragged the lieutenant out of a shell crater while under machine gun fire. Sergei had been hit in the leg and side, but refused evacuation until others were moved first. Eventually, medics took him away toward a rear hospital near Volkhov. Alive. Weak, but alive. Anna listened without blinking. When the lieutenant finished, she stood up straight. She thanked him once, quietly. Then she asked the only question that mattered. Where was that hospital now? By noon, Major Karpov received a message through a chain of officers that stunned him. Anna Morozova was requesting permission to continue east toward Volkhov. Alone, if necessary. She believed her son was there. Karpov stared at the map. The distance was impossible. The roads were worse. German air patrols were increasing. Civilians did not survive trips like this. Soldiers barely did. Yet everything Anna had done so far was already impossible. And she was still standing. Karpov signed the travel authorization himself. It was unofficial, barely legal. But it carried his seal. He arranged transport as far as possible, then foot travel with escorts rotating between units. He wrote one line at the bottom that no regulation book contained. Ensure she reaches her destination. Anna left the battalion area on January 20, 1943. She travelled by truck, sled and foot. She slept in barns, trenches and once inside a burnt-out tank hull during an air raid. She crossed the Volkhov River on ice while artillery thundered miles away. She gave away her bread to wounded soldiers. She knitted socks at night by firelight and left them behind for men she would never see again. Wherever she went, the story went with her. Soldiers spoke of her in whispers at first, then openly. A mother was walking the war, and the war did not stop her. At the evacuation hospital near Volkhov, records finally gave an answer. Sergei Morozov had been admitted on January 2, 1943. Severe wounds, infection. Transferred again on January 9th to a rear facility near Tikhvin. Anna did not sit down. She did not ask how far, she only asked how to get there. The final leg took 5 days. On January 27, 1943, Anna Morozova walked into a hospital ward in Tikhvin. Rows of beds, white sheets, quiet breathing. She moved slowly, reading names. Then she stopped. Sergei lay thin and pale, his face sharper than she remembered, his hair cut short. For a moment, she did not move. She did not speak. She only stood there, her hand over her mouth, as if afraid the sight would vanish. Sergei opened his eyes. At first, he did not understand. Then recognition spread across his face, slow and disbelieving. His lips moved. No sound came out. Anna stepped forward and took his hand. No one in the ward spoke. Nurses stopped. Orderlies turned away. Even wounded men who had seen death up close felt something tighten in their chests. Anna stayed until Sergei slept again. Then she sat beside him, her journey finally over. Weeks later, when Sergei recovered enough to be transferred again, his story spread through the army. Not of a battle, not of a victory, but of a mother who crossed front lines, artillery zones, frozen rivers, and fear itself to find her son. Years after the war, veterans of the Leningrad Front would remember many things: hunger, cold, noise, loss. But some remembered something else more clearly. They remembered the day a tired woman walked out of the snow and reminded an entire battalion what they were fighting for. Anna Ivanovna Morozova never carried a rifle. She never fired a shot. But her journey became one of the quiet legends of the Eastern Front, not written in orders or medals, passed instead from soldier to soldier, as proof that even in the darkest winter of war, something stronger than fear was still moving forward, one step at a time. If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.